Hello everyone, in this video we're going to go over step by step on how to apply to renew the permanent resident card in Canada. I have already included the link to this page in the bio. This is where you can apply to renew your PR card. If the link in the bio doesn't work for some reason, just go on Google and type how to renew PR card online. The first link that pops up, this one right here, is the one that you want to click on, and it's going to bring you to this page, which again, I have already included the link for this page in the bio. When you're on this page, you want to scroll down, and then you want to go ahead and click on this green button right here, sign in to the permanent resident portal. Then it's going to bring you to this page, and when you're here, you want to scroll down. You want to go ahead and click on create an account. Then you have to go ahead and enter your email address. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my email address. Then you have to go ahead and pick a password that you remember. Your password must meet these criteria. It must have 8 characters. It must have a special character. It must have an uppercase and a lowercase and 1 number. So make sure you pick a password that meet all these criteria. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is my password. And as you can see, when I meet each one of these criteria, I get a green check mark right next to that criteria. Then it's asking to confirm your password. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my password again. When you're done, you want to go ahead and check this box right here. And then you want to go ahead and click on create an account. Then they're going to send you a verification code to the email address you provided. And then you just have to type that code here. After you type the code that they sent you, you want to go ahead and click on complete registration. And that's how easy it is to create an account. Then what you want to do is to just go ahead and enter the email address that you just provided. As well as the password that you provided. And then you just want to go ahead, when you entered your username, which is your email address that you provided in the last step, and after you type that as well as your password, you want to go ahead and click on sign in. Then it's going to ask you the program under which you're applying. So you're here to renew your PR card, so you want to go ahead and click on PR card renewal option, which is this one right here. And then it's going to ask for your situation. It's going to ask whether you're in Canada or outside Canada. For the sake of this video, we're going to go ahead and say you're in Canada. Then you want to go ahead and check this box right here. And then you just want to go ahead and click on apply for PR card button right here. And you are signed into the account. And as you can see, it says that your application was successfully started. When you're on this page, you want to scroll down. Then it's asking you if your PR card request is urgent or not. I'm just gonna, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna say it's not, and I'm gonna leave it on the no option. No, my request is not urgent. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and scroll down. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of forms and checklists that you can see in this table right here. You do not have to fill out all of this. For example, this form right here, this is the mandatory one. This is the form that you must fill out and submit. This is your permanent resident renewal application form. So this one is mandatory, as well as the document checklist. This is also mandatory. These two forms are mandatory, but the rest are not mandatory, and you do not have to do them if they don't apply to you. These two, however, you must fill those out. You must fill out form IMM 5444 and IMM 5644. These two forms must be filled out, and I'm going to go over them and I'm going to show you how you can fill them out, both of them. Just bear with me. The rest of them, they might not apply to you. For example, use of a representative. If you are applying for yourself, if you're applying to renew your own PR card, you do not need to do this form. However, if you have somebody else filling out your application, then you might want to consider filling out this application. And then the next one, authority to release personal information to a designated individual. If you don't want IRCC to share your information with anyone, then you do not need to fill this form. However, if you want IRCC to share your information with, let's say, your sister or your brother or your dad or your uncle, then you might want to consider filling this form out. But again, if you do not want IRCC to share your information with anyone, then you do not need to fill out this form. If you're not using a representative, you do not need to fill out this form. If you're not changing your gender, you do not need to fill out this form. If you're not changing your name, you do not need to fill out this form. If you are not declaring yourself as an indigenous person, you do not need to fill out this form. And if you're not declaring a common law union, you do not need to fill out this form. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm applying to renew my own PR card, and I don't want IRCC to share my information with anyone, and I'm not using a representative, and I'm not changing my name or my gender, and I'm not declaring to be an indigenous person, or I'm not declaring a common law union. So the only two forms that I have to fill out would be these two forms. So let's start filling out our first form together, which is application for permanent resident card, IMM 5444. And before we start, I need to let you know you do need some documents, but I'm gonna get to these documents later. For now, we're just gonna go ahead and start the application for a permanent resident card, which is this one right here. And in order to start that application, you just have to go ahead and click on the start button right in front of it. When you click on that, it's going to bring you to this page. It's going to ask your situation. You want to renew your PR card, so you want to go ahead and click on this option, renew your present PR card. Then it's asking for your UCI number. The UCI number is on your PR card. It's listed as ID number. So look at your PR card. It says ID number. That ID number is your UCI. So go ahead and enter your UCI number here, which again, as I mentioned, your UCI number is listed as ID number on your PR card. I'm gonna go ahead and say, this is my UCI number. After I type my UCI, then it's asking for language of correspondence. I'm gonna go ahead and pick English. Then it's gonna ask date you became a permanent resident in Canada. You can find this date on the back of your PR card. Turn your PR card around, flip your PR card. On the back of your PR card, you can see the date you became a permanent resident in Canada. Just type that date in here. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was 2020 01/10. Then it's gonna ask for the name of the city or port of entry. I'm gonna go ahead and say it was YYZ Pearson Airport. I'm also going to go ahead and say Toronto. Then I have to pick the province. I'm going to go ahead and say Ontario. After you're done entering those information, you're going to go ahead and click on Save and Continue. After you click on that, it's going to bring you to this page. It's going to ask for your full name. Keep in mind, you must type your full name exactly as it's shown on your record of landing, or on your PR card. So look at your PR card, and you got to make sure you type your family name and your name exactly as it's shown on your PR card. So on the PR card, it's always the full name, the information are always in capital letters. So I'm going to go ahead and enter everything in capital letters exactly as it's shown on my current PR card. I'm going to go ahead and say the family name is Ross, and then the first name is Music. Then it's asking if if your current name is different from what you've stated here. If not, you can just leave this part blank. If it's different, just go ahead and fill out these boxes. If it's not different, and if it's exactly the same as what you entered here, you can just leave this one blank. You can just leave the boxes here blank. Then you want to scroll down. It's asking for physical characteristic. First it's going to be first it's asking for your gender. I'm going to go ahead and say female. Then it's asking for your eye color. Keep in mind that these information, eye color and height, these can be found on the back of your PR card. Flip your PR card, and on the back of your PR card, it shows all these information. It shows your height, it shows your eye color. You can just copy those information from your PR card in here. I'm going to go ahead and say the eye color is green, and I'm going to go ahead and say the height is 157. Again, you can find this information, your height, your eye color, everything on the back of your PR card. Then it's asking for the date of birth. I'm going to go ahead and say I was born in 1966, 0606. Then it's asking for country of birth. I'm gonna go ahead and pick my country of birth. Then it's asking for your country of citizenship. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick the country of my citizenship. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm a citizen of Turkey. If you have another citizenship, for example, if you're a citizen of United States, you want to go ahead and include it here in this box right here. You want to make sure you include all your citizenships in this box. So if you're a citizen of US and England, you want to go ahead and mention it here in this box. If not, if you don't have any other citizenship other than the country you were born in, then you can just leave this part blank and move on to the residential address section. If you're living in an apartment, you want to go ahead and include the apartment number here. And if you're not living in an apartment and you live in a house, you can just leave the leave this part blank and move on to the street number. I'm gonna go ahead and say I live in a house, and the street number is 47 Victoria Park Avenue, and city, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's Toronto. Postal code L1L1L1. Then I have to pick the province, and then I can scroll down to the current mailing address. If your mailing address is the same as your current home address, you can just leave this part blank and move on to the next section, which is phone number. If your mailing address is different from your home address that you entered here, you want to make sure you include your mailing address here. Keep in mind your PR card will be mailed to your mailing address that you're stating here. However, if your mailing address is the same as your home address that you stated here, then it will be, and as I mentioned, you just leave this part blank, and then the PR card will be mailed to this address right here. For the sake of, but if your mailing address is different, you just want to make sure you include it here, and your PR card will be mailed to this address right here. For the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and say my mailing address is the same as my home address right here, so I can just leave this part blank and move on to the next section, which is phone number. And then you have to pick if your phone number is from Canada or other countries. I'm going to go ahead and say it's from Canada. Then you have to pick the type of your phone number. I'm going to go ahead and say it's cellular. Then you have to type your number. If there's an extension, you want to include it here. If not, you can just leave it blank. If you have an alternative phone number, you can just include the information here. If you don't have an alternative, you can just leave that part blank and move on to the next section. It's asking if you would like to be contacted using the email address that you provide in this account. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. If you want to provide a different email address, you can just click no here, and then you will be given an option to enter a new email address. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and say that yes, the email address that I provided, that I used to make this account, is the one that I wanted to be contacted with. And then it's asking for my current marital status. I'm going to go ahead and say single. After I'm done entering these information, I'm going to go ahead and click on the save and continue button. Then it's going to start asking me for my immigration history. Let's go over the questions one by one together. Question 1, have you ever been issued a removal order from Canada? No. Question 2, has an immigration officer ever issued an inadmissibility report? No. Question 3, have you ever lost your status as PR of Canada? No. Question 4, have you ever submitted an appeal to the Immigration Appeal Division of Immigration and Refugee Board against a decision on the residence obligation? No. Question 5, have you ever been issued any of the following documents? If you haven't been issued any of these documents, then just don't check any of the boxes. Just leave them blank. Just leave it as is. And then go ahead and click on save and continue. If you have been issued any of these documents, you want to make sure you go ahead and check that box. Let's say that you have been issued a travel document. You want to go ahead and check the box under the travel document right here. Then it's going to ask you to provide some details about the document that you've been issued, your travel document. And then if you have been issued a PR travel document, you want to go ahead and click on the box under that. And again, you must go ahead and provide the detail below. And if you haven't been issued any of them, you just make sure that you don't check any of the boxes and you just leave both boxes blank. When you're done entering these information, you want to go ahead and click on save and continue. And then it's going to bring you to this page, personal history. This is where you have to include all the addresses that you've resided at, both inside and outside Canada for the last 5 years. You got to make sure you include all the addresses both inside and outside Canada during the last 5 years, and you do not want to leave any time gaps. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Just bear with me. So you have to include all the addresses in this table here, and in order to add an address, you can just click on this add icon right here under the action section. Let's just do this together. So I'm gonna go ahead and say from 2020-0101 to 2022-0101. I was residing at 53 Victoria Park Avenue. City was Toronto, province was Ontario, and then the country was Canada. And then after I'm done, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this add button. But before I do that, I need to tell you something. You gotta make sure you start the next row with the state that you end here with. So here I'm saying that from 2020 to 2021-01-01, I was residing at this address, right? So when I'm adding my new address, I gotta make sure that I start the date, I start the from date with this address. I'll show you what I mean. So when you're done adding your address, you wanna go ahead and click on the add icon. And then here, under the from date, you wanna go ahead and type the same date that you ended with here. So here you ended with 2022-01-01. You gotta make sure you start with that exact same date here, 2022-01-01. If you don't do that, you are gonna get an error when you click on the Save Table button right here. So you wanna make sure that you start the next row, this row right here, with the date that you ended with here. So here we ended with 2022-01-01. So for our next row, we gotta make sure we start with 2022-01-01. The exact same date that we ended with, that's the date we gotta start with for our new row right here. I'm gonna go ahead and say from 2022-01-01 to 2024 December 10, I was residing at 787 Istanbul Avenue in Istanbul, and province, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's Istanbul, and then the country, I'm gonna go ahead and say Turkey. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click on the add icon again. And then for my new row right here, for this row right here, I gotta make sure that I start the date with the date that I ended with in the previous row. So here I ended with 2024-12-10. So I gotta make sure that I start with the exact same date, 2024-12-10. I am gonna go ahead and say this is my current address. So for the to date, I am going to include the date that I'm planning to sign and submit this application. So let's say that I'm planning to sign and submit this application on 25th. I'm gonna go ahead and say to 2024 December 25th. I'm living, this is my current address, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm living at 47 Victoria Park Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Then I'm gonna go ahead and click on the add icon again, and I can see that it's added. After I added all the addresses, including my current address here, I'm gonna go ahead and click on the Save Table button right here. If you see no error, that's a good sign. You can just move on to the next step. If you click on the Save button and you have made a mistake, like there's a time gap here between the date that you have entered, then you are gonna get an error. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say that, for example, let's say that, so here, I have to start the date with the date that I ended with right here, right? So let's say that instead of doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and say 2024, 12/26. So instead of saying 2024, 12/25, I'm saying that the data starts with 12/26. So it's the day after this date right here. If I do that, I'm gonna get an error. I'll show you what I mean by in a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and say from 2024 12/26 to 2024 12/30. I've been living it at this address. Again, this is just an example to show you that if you leave a time gap, when you click on the Save Table button, you will get an error. So you want to make sure that you don't leave a time gap. However, if you do it right and if there is no time gap, then you're not going to get an error. Okay, I added the address. Now, when I go ahead and click on this Save Table button, you see that I get an error here. There is a gap in my address history. And that's because in this row right here, there's a time gap between this date and this date right here. So this date is exactly a day after this date right here, and that's not right. It shouldn't be like that. You gotta make sure you start the from date right here with the exact same date that you end with here. So if you leave a time gap like this, you are gonna get an error. So make sure you do not leave a time gap. So here I'm gonna go ahead and click delete address because that was just fictional. And you can see that now if I go ahead and click on the Save Table button, I'm not gonna get any error, and everything is good. I'm not gonna get any error because there is no time gaps here. I made sure that I started this date right here. I started my next row with the date that I ended here with. Same goes for here. I made sure that I start the date with the exact same date that I ended here with. So if you don't leave any time gap when you click on the Save Table button, you will not get an error. However, if you leave even 1 day worth of time gap, you will get an error. In this case, I haven't left any time gap between these dates, so I'm not gonna get any error when I click on the Save Table button right here. Okay, when you entered all the addresses that you've resided at during the last 5 years in this table, you just scroll down to the work and educational history section. So for the work and education history of part of this application, you want to make sure you include all your work and educational history for the last 5 years for both inside and outside Canada. They want to know what you were doing during the last 5 years, both inside and outside Canada. You gotta make sure to include those information here in this table. Let's fill it out together. I'm gonna go ahead and say from 2020 0101 to 2022 0101. I was at York University, and I was a York University, and I was a student. For the activity, I'm gonna go ahead and say I was a student. And then city was Toronto, country was Canada. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click on the add icon right here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and say from 2022 0101 to 2024 1210. I was a manager at Istanbul Inc. Name of the employer would be Istanbul Inc. I was a manager there in Istanbul. The country was Turkey. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the add icon right here. And then for my current job, I'm going to go ahead and say from 2024 1210 to 2024. This is going to be my current job. And for the to date, I'm going to go ahead and include the date that I'm planning to sign and submit the application. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm planning to submit this application on 25th. So I'm going to date it for 25th. I'm going to go ahead and say I work for AO Insurance. I'm an insurance broker. City is Toronto. Oops. Toronto. And then the country is Canada. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the add icon. After I'm done entering all of my information, all of my work and education history for the last 5 years, both inside and outside Canada, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save Table button right here. And then when I'm done entering all these information, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save and Continue button here. After I click on that, it's going to bring me to this page. We're going to go over the questions one by one together. First question, have you traveled or lived outside Canada in the past 5 years? The answer is yes. Second question, have you been employed on a full-time basis by a Canadian business outside Canada or in the federal public administration or the public service of a province while you were absent from Canada? No, I have not been employed on a full-time basis by a Canadian business outside Canada, so I'm just going to go ahead and say no. Third question is, have you been accompanying a Canadian citizen who is your spouse or common law partner, or in the case of a child, your parent, while you were absent from Canada? No. And then fourth question is, have you been accompanying a PR who is your spouse or common law partner, or in the case of a child, your parent and who is employed on a full-time basis by a Canadian business outside Canada or in the federal public administration or the public service of province while you were absent from Canada? No. So question 5 is asking to provide all your absences from Canada during the last 5 years. And it's asking you to list your absences from the most recent to the oldest. And you must also include a reason for the absences in the table below. Again, you must make sure you list your absences from the most recent one to the oldest one. And you also got to make sure to include a reason for those absences. So let's do it together. I'm going to go ahead and say I was absent from Canada from 2022 0101 to 2024 1210. My location was Istanbul, Turkey, and then you have to pick a reason for your absence. So you got to pick from one of these 4 options, A, B, C, and other. How would you know which one to pick? In order to know which one you should pick, you got to scroll down. Right under this table right here, there's this blue box right here, and it tells you what each letter corresponds to. So A is for people who were outside Canada and they were employed by a Canadian business on a full-time basis. So if you were outside Canada and you were employed on full-time basis by a Canadian business, you gotta pick option A for your reasons for absence here. If you were on vacation, let's say you were on vacation, or let's say you were studying abroad, or if let's say you were employed outside Canada for a company that is not a Canadian company, then you want to go ahead and pick other. Right here, you want to, for the reason for absence, you want to go ahead and click on the pick the other option right here. So for our case, for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and pick the other option because I was outside Canada. And the reason I was outside Canada is because I had a job, and the job, it was a full-time job, but it was not for a Canadian business. I was working on full-time basis for a company in Turkey that had nothing to do with Canadian companies. And I was on, the company was a privately owned company. It had nothing to do with Canadian companies. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the other option that says employment. And again, if you were on vacation or if you were studying, you also want to go ahead and pick this option. The other 2 options, you might want to consider them if you were accompanying a Canadian citizen or if you were accompanying a permanent resident and they were working for Canadian businesses. But if you were working or on vacation or studying, and your work and your education or your vacation had nothing to do with Canada, then you want to go ahead and pick this option right here. Again, in my case, I was working in Turkey on full-time basis, but the company I was working for had nothing to do with Canadian companies. It was a private company in Turkey, and so the option that I have to pick, it's going to be others. So here I'm going to go ahead and click on the other option, reason for absence. I'm going to go ahead and click on the other option, and then when you pick the other option, you got to make sure to include your reason. So you just go ahead and say employment. And then after you're done, so here my reason was employment. Again, I was working for a company in Turkey, and that's why I was not in Canada. And I included the other option right here for my reason for absence. And again, you want to make sure to start with your most recent absent. If you have been living Canada on multiple occasions, you want to make sure you start with your most recent absent, and then you go to the oldest one. And then you also want to make sure that for each leave you include the reason and as well as the date and where you went. And you can always add extra rows by clicking on this add icon right here, and it will calculate for you automatically how many days you were absent from Canada. You don't have to do that by hand, it will automatically calculate that for you. And after you're done including all the dates and times that you were absent from Canada, as well as the reason and the location, you want to go ahead and click on the Save Table button right here. And then after you're done, you just scroll down. You can see that when you scroll down, it will show you the total time spent outside Canada. It will show you the total number of days you were absent from Canada. And then when you're done with that section, then you can just scroll down. So for question number 7, it's the humanitarian and compassionate grounds. It's asking if an officer determines that you do not meet the residency obligation, are there humanitarian and compassionate consideration that would justify the retention of your PR status? This doesn't apply to us, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it blank. If this question applies to you, you got to make sure that you include your explanation here, and you might want to consider whether or not you need to upload the document. Again, this does not apply to us, so I'm just going to leave it blank, and I'm going to move on to the next section. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the complete and return to the application button right here. And as you can see, when I click on that, it's going to bring me back to this part right here. This is where we started with, and you can see that it says this part is complete and it's ready to submit. Under the status, you can see it says that it's ready to submit. That means we have filled this application, and now we can just move on to the next thing on this list, which is document checklist. Again, this is mandatory. You must make sure you upload it here. I am going to show you how to do it. So first thing first, you want to make sure you go ahead and click on this download button right here. Then it's going to show you, it's going to bring you to this page. This is where you can download the document checklist. Go ahead and click on that. Now that we have downloaded the document checklist, we can go over it together and see what IRCC is asking us to submit in order to be able to apply to renew our PR card. This document checklist shows all the documents and forms that you must submit to IRCC in order to be able to apply to renew your PR card. We're going to go over all of them together one by one. So the first thing on the list is the application for permanent resident card itself, IMM 5444. This is the application that we just completed together. This application must be fully completed and signed. Again, this is the application that we just completed and signed together. So I'm just gonna go ahead and check the box right next to it because we have completed this application. Next thing on the list is proof showing that you meet the residency obligation in the last 5 years. So what does this mean? What is this? So in order for you to be able to apply to renew your permanent residency, you must upload two documents. You must upload two documents that show and prove that you have been in Canada for at least 2 years in the last 5 years. Again, it must be two documents. Let me show you what I mean. So, in order for you to be able to apply to renew your PR card, you must physically be present in Canada for at least 2 years in the last 5 years. And you must provide two two documents that can show that you have been in Canada for 2 years in the last 5 years. Those documents, those two documents can be your employment record or pay stub, they can be your bank statement, they can be your notice of assessment, they can be your rental agreement, or any other documents that can prove you meet the residency obligation. Any other document that can prove you have been physically present in Canada for at least 730 days or 2 years in the last 5 years. Any document that can show that can show and prove that you have been in Canada for at least 2 years in the last 5 years, you must make sure to upload those two documents. It's got to be two documents in the permanent resident portal along with your application and document checklist and other documents in order to be able to apply to renew your PR card. Again, you can just pick any two of these documents here that can show and prove you have been in Canada for at least 2 years in the last 5 years. And then you can just upload those documents in your permanent resident portal and submit them to IRCC along with your application. For the sake of this video, we are going to go ahead and say we are submitting two documents that can show and prove that we have been in Canada for at least 2 years in the last 5 years. Again, you must submit two documents. If you only submit one, they will return your application and they will not process it. You need two documents. After you upload those two documents, you want to go ahead and check the box right here. And then we can move on to the next document, which is fees. So in order for you to be able to apply to renew your PR card, you must pay a fee. And you must include a copy of the receipt showing the amount you paid. So the fee that you must pay for your application to renew your PR card is $50 per person. Again, you must pay the fee and you must include the proof of your payment with your application. So when you pay the fee, they will send you an email that include your proof of payment, that include your receipt that shows how much you have paid. You must include that receipt in your application and submit that receipt to IRCC in order for them to process your application. If you pay the fee but do not include the receipt that they sent you in your email, the IRCC will not process your application. So make sure that when you receive the email that has your receipt in it and it shows that you have paid $50, make sure you attach that receipt and you include it in your application and you submit that receipt to IRCC. I am going to show you later in this video how to pay the fee and how to attach that receipt to your application. Just bear with me. Since we are planning to attach that receipt and pay the application fee, I am going to go ahead and check the box right next to this document. Then the next thing on the list is this fully completed document checklist, IMM 5644. As I mentioned, this document checklist is mandatory. You must fully complete it. When it says fully completed, that means you got to make sure you check the box right next to all the documents that you are planning to submit to IRCC. So you got that's what they mean by fully completed. And again, this is the document checklist. This is form IMM 5644. You must make sure to include this form along with your application as well as your other documents in your permanent resident portal, and you must submit this document checklist that's been fully completed to IRCC. So since we are filling out this form and since we are planning to submit this form, to upload and submit this form to IRCC, I am going to check the box right next to this document. Now we can move on to the next section, which is additional forms. I have already talked about this section in the beginning. If you are planning to use a representative, you want to make sure that first you fill out this form, IMM 5476, and when you fill out this form, you got to make sure you upload it in your permanent resident portal. This is where you must upload the use of a representative application form if you are planning to use a representative. If you can just go ahead and click on upload after you fill out this form, and you can just download the form right here. But again, as I mentioned before, for the sake of this video, I am going to say that I am not using a representative, so I do not need to fill out this form and I can just leave it blank and ignore it. As I mentioned before, in this video, we are not using a representative. We are saying that I am applying to renew my own PR card and I am not using a representative, so I can just ignore this. I do not need to check this box. I just have to leave it blank, just ignore, and then I can move on to the next document. If you are using a representative, you want to make sure you fill out the form, you upload it, and you check the box right here. If you are not using a representative, you can just ignore this, just ignore it. Don't check anything, don't fill out anything, and don't upload this form right here. Just ignore this right here, and don't check the box right next to it, leave it blank. So the next document they're asking is for humanitarian and compassion ground. This doesn't apply to us, so I'm just gonna again ignore it and leave the box next to it blank. I'm not gonna check it, I'm just gonna ignore it, I'm gonna leave it blank. And then the last document in this section will be legal change of name. This doesn't apply to us. If you're not changing your name, this doesn't apply to you either. This is only for people who have changed their name. If you have changed your name, you might want to consider including supporting legal document as well as checking the box right next to it. Again, this doesn't apply to us, so we are just going to ignore it and we are just going to leave it blank. These three forms, these three additional documents or forms, they don't apply to us, so just ignore them. If they don't apply to you either, just ignore them and then move on to the next section, which is this section right here. So the next thing they're asking us here is some additional documents. They do require your photo. You must upload a photo, a picture of yourself. This picture must have been taken within the last 12 months, or in other words, within the last year. 12 months or last year. It shouldn't be any older than 12 months, or it shouldn't be any older than a year. Since you are applying online, you only need to upload one photo, and you gotta make sure you upload both front and back. When you have your photo, when you have your picture ready, you can just upload your picture here. This is the front. This is where you should upload the front of your picture, and this is where you should upload the back of your picture. You just want to go ahead and click on these two buttons in order to be able to upload the front and back of your photo. Again, the photo must have been taken within the last 12 months. If it's older than 12 months, you must retake that picture. When you have that picture, you want to go ahead and upload your photos here. Here again, this is the front. This is where you should upload the front, and this is the back. And since you are applying online, you only need one photo, and then you just have to upload that photo in the permanent resident portal. You have to upload both front and back, and the photo should be only cannot be any older than 1 year or 12 months. Just gonna go ahead, for the sake of this video, we're gonna go ahead and say we already have our picture taken, so I'm just gonna go ahead and check the box right next to it. Then the next thing will be copy of one primary document. This can be your passport. Keep in mind that your passport must be valid, so you need a copy of a valid passport if you have a valid passport. If you don't, then you can use any other of these documents as your primary identity document. You only need one of them. Should show these information. It should show your document type and number, the issue and expiry date, the name, your photo, and your date of birth. And again, if you are using your passport as your primary identity document, if you're planning to include a copy of that, make sure your passport is valid. If your passport is not valid, you can just pick any of these other documents here. You only need one of these documents, only one. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and say I am going to attach a copy of my valid passport. So I'm going to go ahead and check the box right next to it. And then the next thing on the list is my PR card. Since you are applying to renew your PR card, you must provide a copy of your PR card, both front and back. You need to upload a picture of your current PR card, front and back, in the permanent resident portal, along with your application and other documents that you're submitting. You must do that. You must submit that to IRCC in order to be able to apply to renew your PR card. Again, you need your current PR card. You gotta make sure you provide a copy of your front and back of your current PR card in order to be able to apply to renew your PR card. I'm gonna go ahead and say I am planning to include a copy of my current PR card, so I'm just gonna go ahead and check the box right next to it, and then we can move on to the next section, which is this section right here. I have already talked about these three forms at the beginning of the video. You only need to complete these three forms if you are requesting to change your gender, if you are confirming the eligibility for a reclaimed name change, if you are declaring to reclaim an indigenous name. If none of these three applies to you, you can just ignore this section, ignore these applications, leave these checkboxes blank, and then just move on to the next section. For the sake of this video, I am gonna go ahead and say none of these apply to me. I am not changing my gender. I am not confirming eligibility for a reclaimed name change, and I am not declaring to reclaim an indigenous name. None of them apply to me, so I'm just gonna ignore them. I'm gonna leave the boxes next to them blank, and I'm gonna move on to the next document. This one right here is only for people who are younger than 18. Again, this doesn't apply to me, so I'm just gonna leave it blank. If you're not younger than 18, then again, this doesn't apply to you either, just ignore it. And then we can just move on to the next section. So the next section, this section right here, hold on. This section right here, this is only for people who are applying for a permanent travel document. We are not applying for permanent travel documents, so we can just ignore all this. We can just ignore them. And we can just leave the boxes next to them blank. Just ignore these parts. And then we're done. We're done with this form. You don't need to do this part. Again, this is only for people who are applying for a permanent resident travel document. We are not applying for that. So we're just gonna ignore this. We're just gonna ignore this. And you can see that we have completely finished this document checklist. So we are done with this document checklist. We can now just go ahead and upload this completed document checklist in the IRCC in the permanent resident portal. Let's go ahead and upload this document together. So now that we're back to our permanent resident portal, we can now go ahead and upload the document checklist that we just filled out and completed together. All you have to do is to go ahead and click on the upload button, and then you can just attach the document checklist that you completed from your computer. And when it's when the document, you get a message that the document was successfully uploaded. And you can see that the document is under the status section. It says that the document is ready to submit, and you can see the name of the attachment. And again, you got to make sure you get that green successful message that we just saw together when you attach the document, when you upload the document. So after you're done attaching the document checklist, then you can just scroll down. As I mentioned, since we are not using a representative, we are not going to attach any other forms here. If you are using a representative, you might want to consider filling out this form and uploading it here. But again, we are not using a representative, so we're not going to attach anything. We are not authorizing IRCC to release our information to anyone, so I'm not going to attach anything here. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the only two forms that I must fill out are these two forms. These are mandatory. Now the rest are optional, and you do not have to upload them if they don't apply to you. If you need to upload any of these forms and fill them out, you can just click on the download button right here. You can download the form, fill it out, and then upload it right in front of it. But again, since they don't apply to me, I'm just gonna leave everything blank. The only two forms that I must fill out are these two forms, which I have already filled them out, and I can see that under the status, they're both ready to be submitted. After you're done with those two forms, you can just scroll down. It's gonna bring you to photo section. I have already talked about this. As I mentioned, you must upload a picture of yourself. You must make sure to upload both front and back of that picture in these sections. And you must make sure that the picture is only 12 months old. And again, you need both front and back of that picture. In order to upload them, you just click on the add button. And you can see when you click on the add button, it will let you know about the criteria that you must meet for your pictures. And it will also show you some example. Make sure you go over these criteria and make sure that your photo meets these criteria. You can see the accepted pictures. You can see these samples. Just make sure you go over them and make sure you meet these requirements. After you're done reading that, you just go ahead and scroll down. And then here, first of all, as I don't know if I said it or not, the photo must be taken by a professional photographer. You cannot take your own picture with your phone. And that's not possible. You are not allowed to do that. You must go to a professional photographer, taken by a professional photographer within the last 12 months. It cannot be any older than 12 months. After you have your picture taken by a professional photographer, then you gotta pick which one applies to you, which of these two options apply to you. If the photographer gave you a photo in digital format, you want to go ahead and pick this option that says digital format, photo taken by professional photographer, received in digital format. If the photographer gave you a photo and they printed it on a paper, and then you can just go ahead and pick this option. So I am gonna go ahead and pick this option right here. My photo was taken by a professional photographer and received it. Go ahead and click on the upload button right here and upload your photo. I'm gonna go ahead and upload a picture. I did attach a photo. This photo is just an example. I just wanted to show you when you attach your photo, you will be able to see it right underneath it. Again, this is just an example. I didn't meet the requirement, and as you can see, it's showing me that the picture doesn't meet the following requirement. I understand, but again, this is just for the sake of this video, just to show you that when you attach a picture of yourself, it's gonna show up here. If there's something wrong with it, you will get a warning. If everything is okay, you will not see this warning that I'm seeing here today. I am just gonna ignore this warning sign. So let's say that I didn't get the warning and everything is good and my picture is clear and meet the requirement. And then I can just scroll down. Then I gotta make sure that I click on this declaration. And then after I click on that declaration, I gotta, after I check that box for the declaration, I gotta make sure that I check the box for the acknowledgement as well. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click on the next button. And you can see that it says that the photo was successfully uploaded. This is the name of the person who's applying renew their permanent resident card. And you can see that it says photo was successfully uploaded. And then I can just scroll down and I can see that the photo was successfully attached. And I can see that the status, under the status, it says ready to submit. And then you can just go ahead and upload the backside. So the backside of your photo must meet this requirement. The backside of your photo must contain the name and date of birth, as well as the name and complete address of the photography studio, the date that the photo was taken, and the photographer may use their stamp or handwriting to enter this information. So on the back of your photo, you must have these information. And then you can just go ahead and upload the photo right here. And when you upload the backside of your photo, it's gonna show you exactly what you've uploaded right here. And it's gonna, under the status, you will see a ready to submit sign. This is just an example. This is not the back of my photo. Again, the back of my photo must meet these criteria, and the front of my photo must meet these criteria. You want to make sure that your photo meets these requirements. Otherwise, your application will be returned to you. So after you uploaded the front and back of your photo and you made sure that you've met all the requirements for front and back, you can just scroll down. And then it's now time to upload document. As I told you before, you do need to upload your PR card front and back. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach that here. And as you can see, I uploaded it here. When you upload your PR card, you will see ready to submit the status, and you can see the name of the attachment. Then the next thing, so I am gonna go ahead and click on the passport or other primary identity document. Then I'm gonna go ahead and click on upload. And I'm gonna go ahead and attach a copy of my identity document, which in this case is a passport. Keep in mind that the passport must be valid. If you don't have your valid passport, you can just go back and take a look at the list that I showed you, and pick the document that you have from that list. After you upload your passport or other primary identity document, you can see that you get a successfully uploaded message right here. Then the next thing that we got to go ahead and upload is going to be our proof of residency in Canada, which is this one right here. You want to go ahead and upload 2 documents. That can be your pay stub, that can be your notice of assessment, that can be your rental agreement. You need 2 documents that can prove and show you have been in Canada for 2 years in the last 5 years. For at least 2 years, by the way, in the last 5 years. I'm gonna go ahead and upload 2 documents. So one thing that I need to tell you is that make sure you include both of those 2 documents in this document that you're uploading here. This document right here must contain 2 documents that show you have been physically present in Canada for at least 2 years in the last 5 years. This has got to show 2 documents. It can be your pay stub and your rental agreement together. Make sure it's 2 documents, okay? And then when you're done, then it's time to go ahead and upload the proof of payment. So in order to pay the fee, you can just follow these steps here. First thing first, you do need an email address that you have access to, because as I mentioned before, they will send you the receipt of your payment that shows how much you have paid and is the proof of your payment to your email address. And you also need a credit card or a Canadian debit card. And in order to pay the fee, we must go online to this, we must click on this link right here. And then we must create an account. And after we create an account, we can just go ahead and pay the fee. We're gonna go ahead and do this together. So go ahead and click on this link right here, online payment. When you click on that link, it's gonna bring you to this page right here. When you're on this page, you wanna scroll down. And then when you're here on a step 3, under a step 3, pay your fees, you want to go ahead and under this option number 2, you want to go ahead and answer this question that says select your application type. We are applying for permanent resident card, so we're going to go ahead and click on this option right here. And then when you click on this option right here, you want to go ahead and click on the continue button. When you click on that, it's going to bring you to this page right here. This is where you can enter the quantity. As you can see, you have been given 2 options to choose from: permanent resident card, which is the one that we are applying for, or permanent resident travel document. This is not for us, we can just ignore this. So right in front of permanent resident card, it's asking for the quantity. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I'm applying for myself to renew my own PR card. So I'm just gonna go ahead and type 1 for the quantity. I'm applying for myself and I'm only 1 person. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on 1. And as you can see, and as I told you before, the amount is only $50. And when I typed 1 here under the quantity, I can just go ahead and click on the submit button right here. And then it's going to bring me to this page. And now what I have to do is, first of all, make sure you did enter all the information correctly. Make sure you are applying for permanent resident card. Make sure the quantity, in this case, is 1. So make sure the quantity is right. The price should be $50, and you can see the total amount is $50. And then you want to go ahead and click on the login and pay button right here. Then it's going to bring you to this page. If you don't have an account, you want to go ahead and create an account. You want to go ahead and click on the register. I do have an account, but for the sake of this video, I am going to go ahead and create an account just in case somebody out there doesn't have an account and they don't know how to create one. So we're going to go ahead and click on register. In order to create an account, you got to go ahead and click on the register, and then it's going to bring you here. First thing you need is an email address. Make sure you are giving them an email address that you have access to and you regularly check. They will send you the receipt or proof of payment to the email address that you're providing here, okay? So make sure you're entering the right email address. This email address is very important. You will receive your receipt of payment or your proof of payment in this email that you're entering here. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my email, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the continue button, and then I have to pick a password. Make sure your password meet these criteria. It's got to be between 8 to 16 characters. It must have a letter and a digit, and both passwords must match. I'm going to go ahead and say this is my password. And as you can see, when you meet these requirements, you'll see a green check mark right next to each one of these requirements. After you're done, you want to go ahead and click on the continue button. Then it's going to bring you to this page. You just have to go ahead and pick some security questions. Make sure you pick the ones that you remember. I'm just going to go ahead and pick some very random questions. You don't have to pick the questions that I'm picking. Make sure you're picking questions that you will remember and you're most comfortable with. After you're done picking the questions and answers that you can remember, you want to go ahead and click on the continue button right here. And then they will send you a code to the email address that you just provided. After you type the code that they sent you to your email address in this box right here, you want to go ahead and click on the verify button. And there you go. That shows that your email has been verified. Go ahead and click on continue button. And now you can just go ahead and confirm the payment right here. You got to first go ahead and check this box right here next to I'm a human, and then after you after you check the box right next to I'm a human, you want to go ahead and click on confirm payment, and then you want to scroll down. You want to go ahead and check this box right here. Then you want to go ahead and click on proceed to secure checkout, and then here you have to go ahead and enter your card information that you're planning to pay with. And after you entered your card information, this is your cardholder number, the billing address. After you entered all those information, you want to go ahead and click on the checkout button, and then you will be charged. And once you're charged and your payment goes through, you will receive a confirmation of payment in your emails, and in that email you can see the receipt of payment. There will be a proof of payment attached in that email. And then once you receive that, all you have to do is to download that proof of payment, and then you want to go ahead and upload that proof of payment in your permanent resident portal. Under proof of payment, you want to go ahead and upload the receipt that IRCC has sent you in your email. I'm going to go ahead and upload my proof of payment here. As you can see, I uploaded my proof of payment, and you can see that I got a message that your proof of payment was successfully uploaded, and under the status I can see that it says ready to submit. Now that we have uploaded all the documents, as well as the proof of payment, as well as the pictures, as well as all the forms that we needed to upload and fill out and complete, we are ready to go ahead and submit our application. Make sure you go over everything one more time just to make sure you have uploaded everything. You want to make sure these two forms have been filled out and have been attached and are all correct. And then you want to make sure your photos are meet the requirements, both front and back. you want to make sure to upload those, and then you want to make sure to upload all the documents that you're supposed to upload: your PR card, your primary identity document, and your proof of residency in Canada, which again must be 2 documents. You must upload 2 documents for this section, and you also want to make sure you upload the proof of payment. And then after you're done, you want to scroll down, and then there's a consent and declaration section. You want to go ahead and sign this declaration and consent form. It's very easy. It's not going to take so much time. You got to go ahead and click on this start button right here, and then all you have to do is check all the boxes right here. After you check all these boxes, then you got to go ahead and sign the application. You can just go ahead and type your name here. I'm gonna go ahead and say, make sure you use capital words, and make sure you type your name as it's shown on your current PR card. You want to make sure the name is exactly as it's shown on your current PR card. After you typed your signature here, which again you can just type your name for it, then you got to also state in which city you are signing this application at. I'm going to go ahead and say signing it in Toronto. Then you want to go ahead and type the province. Again, make sure you're just using capital letters. After you're done, you want to scroll down, and then it's asking, are you currently out of Canada, or have you left Canada since starting this application? If so, you must review the update your travel history under this section. I'm going to go ahead and click on no. And as you can see, when I click on no, I can just go ahead and click on complete and return to the application. And you can see that it says your consent and declaration was successfully updated, and it brings you back to this portal. You want to scroll all the way down again, and you can see that under the status it says ready to submit. Now all I have to do is to go ahead and click on the submit your application button. Hope this video helped. Don't forget to like and subscribe.